Hey, welcome to Wednesday, November 6th, captive audience. And yes, Trump did win it all. Absolutely. I have to tell you, I'm sorry that I'm here a little late, and I'm sorry that I'm here solo. Don Anderson, we were having technical difficulties tonight. And that's just the way it goes sometimes, when you're trying to do a program. And so sadly, Don isn't here. He might be able to pop in with us and it might work. He's working on it. But, the big news is, of course, Trump won it all. He won the Electoral College, he won the popular vote. And it is looking like we're going to have the Senate. It looks like we're going to have the House, and it's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. I want to open by something that Don sent me this morning, and I know that he was going to talk about this, so I'm not doing Don Anderson's justice, absolutely. But I really like this. And so I know he was going to talk about it tonight. So it's the end of the beginning. The left has been waging war on the rest of us for 40 years. Most of us didn't even realize we were at war until they stole the election in November of 2020. That combined with the COVID scam and about 100 other attacks finally awakened the general public from their slumber. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941, we were caught with our pants down. All we could muster to let the Japanese know we were pissed was the Doolittle raid in April of 42. Strategically, it was nothing. But from a morale perspective, it was huge. We were fighting from behind, sometimes hopelessly behind, until the Battle of Iwo Jima in 1945. Trump's win is like the Doolittle raid. It demonstrates to our adversaries that they have awakened the sleeping giant and filled him with a terrible resolve, in the words of Yamamoto. But the second part of Yamamoto's famous quote were the words, "and filled him with a terrible resolve." The question is this: are we filled with a terrible resolve like our grandparents? Our grandparents went from the Doolittle raid to the battles of Coral Sea, Midway, Guadalcanal, Palau, and Iwo Jima. I think it's Palau, Palau. We need to go from our Doolittle raid, Trump's election, to building a border wall, sending 10 million illegals back home, gutting numerous government agencies of traitors, stopping the funding of foreign wars, and providing alternatives to public schools. Dramatic tax reduction and radical transformation of higher education. Our parents and grandparents had the will to finish the job. Their war took 5 years. Ours will take 40 years. The end of the beginning, indeed. So do we have the resolve? And Don is here. We're going to see if we've got voice and if he can join us and actually works here. Hi, Don.
Can you hear me? Oh my
Yes.
goodness, it's working.
Yeah. I don't
Oh,
know
it's
how
a
it is, but it's working. I'm so glad.
miracle. God smiled on us after all. Hey
Yes, I'll
everybody,
tell
I
you.
am so thrilled to get on. I don't know why. Who knows with computers, right? You kick them, you punch them, you unplug them, turn it back on, and all of a sudden it works. So what can I say? You know?
I'm so glad. So I
Yeah.
just finished reading what you sent to me.
Yes.
The beginning of the end, or
Yes.
the end of the beginning.
The end of the beginning. You know, it's I'm sure all of you are just there were literally fireworks going off in our neighborhood. People were
In our
shooting.
town. In our
Yeah,
town too.
it was so awesome. I mean, I thought that I would only get to see Ronald Reagan once in a lifetime. I mean, I thought that's it. If you get one great president in a lifetime, we've only had 5 or 6 that fall into that category. You think of George Washington, you think of maybe Theodore Roosevelt, you think of Franklin Roosevelt, and you think Ronald Reagan, and did I miss anybody? Abraham Lincoln, right? That,
Right,
that's what
right.
you get in 230 years. That's what we got. And what did Reagan used to say? It's morning in America again.
Yes.
That's precisely what it is. And if I might go biblical for a minute, I'm sure
Yes.
everybody in the audience knows the story of Jonah and the well. And the reason why Jonah got swallowed in the whale was he was given the task to go to Nineveh and tell those folks to change their ways, because if they don't, I'm going to burn that place to the ground. Jonah didn't want to go. He jumped in a boat, got swallowed by the whale, got spit up on the beach, and God said, dude, you need to go take care of your business. And so he stopped running away from doing his job, went to Nineveh. He was sure they were going to kill him and just keep on doing what they were doing. But lo and behold, they heard it, changed their ways, and God didn't have to burn them to the ground. And I kind of feel like we've just experienced a Nineveh moment, because people of faith, and even people who aren't necessarily Christian but understand values, have stood by and watched the radical left destroy the country for the last 40 years. And we were like Jonah. We kept running away from our mission. Tell people, admonish the sinner, tell people where they're doing wrong. Instead, we didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We didn't want to like take the hit and be made to feel bad. And so when they took the Bible out of the schools, we said, okay, all right. When they said let's give a board of fashions to the little girls at the school without telling the parents, we said, okay. We raised a little noise, but we said, oh, that's okay. When they said no more Pledge of Allegiance in the schools, we said, okay, all right. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, right? Then when they said we're going to chop your kids up, we were like, we started raising a few ruffles over that one. Then they said, oh yeah, we're gonna like get rid of marriage and like call it gay marriage. And we said, oh, okay, that's cool. And we just kept rolling, right? Thinking it wasn't gonna wind up at our doorstep until they pulled the COVID scam on us. And now they're literally putting a mask on your face. How much of a punch in the face did we need to get before we changed our ways? Even the people in Nineveh didn't get that. How much warning do we need? So I feel like we just been given a great reprieve, as a country. We have, because at the end of the day, this is a moral issue more than it is anything else, and we've refused to stand up and admonish the sinner, if you will. And now we're given a second chance, and Trump is Jonah. So there's my little soliloquy.
And I'll tell you, it's true, because it's been in our lifetime that there's been that we didn't want to make waves. We have absolutely been the silent majority and didn't want to make waves to go against anything. And oh no, you know what, they're going to talk about me if I say something, right?
Mhm.
And whatnot. And there was very few people. I remember some people speaking out. I remember in Southern California, in the Coachella Valley, there was a
Mhm.
cross that was up on the mountain. And I don't
Yeah.
know the history of the cross, but I know that there's a cross up there. And
Mhm.
there was a group that wanted to take that cross down. And
Mhm.
there was a small group of people that fought it and fought it and fought it. And it's like, golly, what are you about the cross on the mountain?
Mhm.
And but they won. They didn't get the cross off of the mountain,
Mhm.
and this is what we have to do. We have to fight. And I think COVID, um, and the children, the mama bears, what they're
Mhm.
doing at the schools, the mama bears, going, no, 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 we're not teaching, um, we're not grooming children at school, let alone chopping them up, because it was the grooming of pedophilia, quite frankly, that was really, I think, struck one of the first chords.
Yeah.
And so there's a long way that we've come, and it's amazing uh, what we have endured. But
Yes.
now that is over, and I've personally I've prayed for a president such as Trump
Mhm.
for years, and so when we got him the first time, it was a blessing. But he has been persecuted and prosecuted since he came down the escalator.
Oh, it's been amazing how much this, and it was going on before him, but he was the one that caused them to lose their minds, and their hubris, their pride overtook them. If they had just been cool about this and just waited a little bit longer, they probably would have had us. But they pulled off their masks and showed us exactly who they are. So no longer was it about abortion's an evil thing that we want to avoid unless we have. I remember that slogan that they had, and you only have to do it. You do it in the first trimester, and you have the right to choose and all that. So it became do it whenever you want. Do it at the 9 month. Do it when they're already alive and coming out of the womb. Right? They
Yeah,
they they absolutely showed out exactly who they are. And then the borders, just completely 100% wide open, raised their middle finger at the entire
yeah,
Americana against it. And the neighborhoods most destroyed by that were the ones who need the help the most, and flooded those neighborhoods with illegals who destroyed the social service network and the educational systems of those communities. And they had so much hubris that they thought they could get away with it and have no response. I mean, that's what happens to dictators everywhere. They always overplay their hand, and that essentially is what leads to their crash. This has been stunning to watch.
it has been stunning to watch, because what also has always been, oh, that's a conspiracy. You're a conspiracy theorist. They've always shamed truth tellers, calling them a conspiracy theorist. And nobody wanted to be called that. You're wearing a tin hat. Nobody would be wanted to hear that, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
but when you are now losing your job for what you say, getting arrested for praying silently, getting arrested for a meme on social media, let alone everything else, that you just mentioned. There's so much more that the people are going, oh no, one world order,
Mhm.
agenda 21 is real. They had to move it out to like agenda 30. I don't know what number they're on now. And but one world order is the goal.
Mhm.
Period.
Yeah,
It is. And
it's
it was, wasn't it, who was it that said you will own nothing and you will like it?
that might have been that might have been a Stalinism, but
No,
so
I don't think so. No, it was recently. It's like, I don't know if it was George Soros, or if, the guy who was the head of the
oh,
WEF.
the German guy was
Yeah, yeah,
Smith
that
or
German
something like
guy.
that. Right?
And
Yeah.
so they are showing what they want. And during COVID, when they said, oh, all the nations sign this accord, and we will take over all of your health care, and if we deem there's a epidemic, you all must comply.
Hmm.
So I'll tell you, um, i'm I'm proud of the extra 5 million and plus people
Hmm.
that voted for Trump,
Yeah.
because that's what we have. We have a five, Klaus Schwab. There we go. Thank you, Lori.
That's very good. Very good. Yeah.
Um, and the election as of right now, I'm looking at the numbers, in the popular vote,
Hmm.
and it's just about 5 million people.
Hmm.
And So 5 million more people
Hmm.
voted to, it's not quite 51%. It's 50.9%.
Hmm.
So yes, we are a divided nation of
Hmm.
where we want to go. But I'll tell you, it's such a I'm so glad that Trump didn't win just the electoral college, but the popular vote as well. It's an absolute mandate of this is our nation is where what we want as a nation.
But think about the accomplishment. He was able to accomplish that with what? Over 100 indictments, what, two or three different impeachments, a national press 100% blocking his messages. Early on, the entire electronic media before Elon Musk stepped in blocking our ability to get news and media anywhere else. The popular culture, whether you're talking the sports world, the Hollywood world, all of it, the entertainment world, all of it leveled against us. They even tried to kill the guy twice that we know of.
Yeah.
And for him to win anyway, it speaks to a couple of things. One, uh, there's got to be something divine going on there for him to turn his head at the last second like that, or for the other guy to see the gun sticking out of the bushes. I mean, it's just what else can
Yes.
you say? And then two, it speaks to what I've always thought all along: the general population is not the people running the country is not representative of the general population. The general population does not think like those people. The people at the elitists that head the teaching institutions, the universities, the public school system, the top of the corporations, these people are progressives and they lost their moral moorings and they're doing things that the general population would never do. And if you don't believe that, let me point to Exhibit A, Epstein, and Exhibit B, P. Diddy. Those are the things they're doing. And the general population, general middle class person working to raise their family and pay their taxes and take care of their bills, they really, because Americans are generally kind, have a hard time grasping real evil. And we do. That's why we allow I think why we allow these people to run for so long, for 40 years, because we've never seen that sort of thing on our soil. You go to Europe, you go to Asia, you go to those places, people who come from places like Cuba, they know because they've experienced it in their lifetime.
Yeah.
We have not. And so we had to get punched in the face, hit in the head with a 2x4 before we wake up. Um,
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. And but thankfully, I tell you, last night I felt like I had a little bit of election PTSD
mm-hmm,
because I didn't want to let myself believe I
mm-hmm,
was watching this. And
mm-hmm,
I'll tell you, we had a election party at our campaign headquarters in Umatilla County.
mm-hmm,
And so we had an election watch party to see what's going to happen.
mm-hmm,
And we had Newsmax. I had Right Side Broadcasting on, and then we would switch between RS Right Side Broadcasting and also Newsmax. Well,
mm-hmm.
then Newsmax is the first who called it. They said, we're going to call this election for Trump.
Wow.
And then, and on the Newsmax program was Matt and Mercedes Schlapp.
Mm-hmm,
And so they're of CPAC. And so, and Matt, pretty soon, Matt Schlapp says, well, um, Trump, we're hearing that Trump is, they're waiting for a presidential Secret Service accompaniment to get here to transport him.
mm-hmm.
That tells you that they knew that Trump won the election. Now,
Yeah.
Newsmax didn't, okay,
Mm-hmm,
but Matt Schlapp, they're in communications, with they got the in, with the crowd there, and I said, if Matt Schlapp just said that, they know Trump won the election,
right, right, right.
and right, and so Newsmax called it, and I was looking at my phone and other people were looking at their phones going, well, the AP hasn't called it and Fox hasn't called it and these others haven't called it. And so ends up we all had a wonderful celebration there. But then I got home and it's sinking in more and I'm watching the numbers grow And
Mhm.
I'm still watching the numbers grow, and I go, I'm afraid
Mhm.
to go to sleep
Yeah.
because they said like Pennsylvania cannot, they changed a law apparently. And in
Mhm.
Pennsylvania, I think it was Pennsylvania, once they started counting,
Mhm.
they couldn't quit.
Mhm.
They had a new law there. They couldn't quit. And
Yeah.
I'm going,
Mhm.
well, I went to sleep at I
Mhm.
went to bed earlier, but I went to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, and
Yeah.
I was awake again at 6.
Mhm.
And I went, yeah, by gosh, he did win. He
Yeah.
really did win, and nothing changed,
Right.
and I watched his speech, his acceptance speech, pretty much that, hey, I've won the election.
Mhm.
And the man has got to be exhausted, and yet he's riding the energy and the endorphins of
Sure.
winning this.
Yeah. Well,
And I just want to add one other thing, and then I'll let you go there, Don. But I heard late in the night, I heard people saying, but if you don't vote for
mhm.
Harris, you're voting against the bureaucracy. Well, hello. Let's vote against the bureaucracy. And so they started that attack.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, you're voting against the government. The bureaucracy if you don't vote for Harris. And it's like, really? This is the message that they're going to put out there?
Well, it's they never if I used to sell things, right? And I can't remember ever selling something by calling my customer stupid. I mean, I just can't. I don't ever remember calling them garbage and disreputable and deplorable and all of that stuff, right? It just doesn't win them. They have to like you first, or they won't buy it no matter what it is you're selling. And then the second thing is you have to actually sell them something. And they did neither. I mean, they actually thought that they could gaslight people with their media into voting for her. Literally scare them to death and sell nothing. And it just didn't work. You have to sell something. There was one interview where they actually asked her the question, "What would you change?" And this was probably the death knell of the whole thing. She said nothing.
Yes.
She said she'd do just what they've been doing. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, that they because they live in that bubble of only talking to each other. And this is you talk to liberals, and if you have liberal friends, you realize this. They will literally not know anyone else who thinks differently from them. Now, as conservatives, we live in their world. We can't help. We can't get away from it because it's in Hollywood, it's in the media, it's in TV, it's in news. You can't escape, but they can, and they do. It's like the famous reporter. I think she was like the Washington Post reporter who, when Reagan won in a landslide, she said, "I can't believe it. I didn't know anybody who voted for him." That's the universe they live in. They don't live in the spaces we live in. So I just want to come real quick to there's a couple of strategic things Republicans figured out. It's like a football game or football season. You play, let's say the Bears play the Lions. The Lions do a certain offensive strategy and beat you up. You look at your video and you say, "I'm not going to get beat that way again. I may be beat that way. They're going to beat me some other way, but they're not going to beat me doing that." And the
Yes.
Republicans learned from all the cheating and conniving they did. And one of the brilliant things they did was get rid of what was her name, Rona, whatever it was, the RNC.
Ronna McDaniel.
Getting rid of her was brilliant and replacing her with somebody who was not going to run the same strategy. And so running down votes early, figuring out where the cheating was going on, and putting laws in place before they could do it. One of them you just described in Pennsylvania, right? That all worked. you know, that all really worked.
It did. And in fact, I saw where James O'Keefe was somewhere. I don't remember where. I've seen so many videos. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
I'm still tired. But
I hear you.
he was videoing at an election place and through the glass. And there's one guy with the ballots all by himself. And he goes, I think there's supposed to be two people there all the time. And ends up talking to the guy and goes, "Are you supposed to be by yourself in there?" Well, pretty soon another guy came. So, but you see, it's eyes. It was
Right.
eyes and
Mhm.
calling them out. And
Yes.
then somewhere else, they started kicking out the Republican observers, and a
Mhm.
lawyer came right in and said, "Oh no, this is against the law, and you know it."
Right, right.
And we will have you arrested since you know it, because we've done this before. And they said, oh yeah, come on back in. Sorry, oops.
Yeah, so
So
so we know the game, and the
yeah,
Republicans responded. "Fool me once, shame on you," right? And it
yeah,
was strategic, and it worked. I'll tell you the other thing that's beautiful, though. A number of things that happen here that are these are game changers for the rest of our lifetimes, right? One of them is, I think, it's the end of the debate format. It's the end of large media, because when Rogan interviewed Trump long form 3 hours, and what was it,
yes,
like 80 or 90 million people watched that?
yes,
That was the end of CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. They're done. They've been sinking into polls anyway, but the lack of trust that they have, and then people saw that and said, this guy is relatable. He's not the dictator, the monster that they've been pointing him out to be.
yeah,
Hey, he's actually kind of funny. That whole garbage truck deal, that was hilarious. The black barbershop deal.
yeah.
How cool was that? Who else? What politician of any
Greg Gutfeld's program.
could walk in that? Yeah, Gutfields. I mean, he's walking into places that no one else could. No one else has ever done this
Yeah,
stuff before with no fear. And people ate that up. He is, who would ever say a billionaire is a regular man, but he's the regular guy, and
he is.
people loved it. He's not reading from a script. You can't do a 3 hour podcast and read from a script. Your handlers can't do it. Right? You have to be you. So that whole Rogan thing, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but those things are going to be the way this plays out. It's stuff like what we're doing here.
Yeah,
This is where Americans are going to get their news from now on, which is brilliant, because you cannot strategically work millions of different places to get news. If you only have 5 or 6 places, you can manipulate that, and they can't do it.
yeah,
So this is like, that's awesome strategic change number one. Change number two, if I might just wander for a minute, is the uh, the Republican Party. This is not your grandfather's Republican Party anymore. The Republican Party just became the party of the people overnight. I mean, listen to these stats. I was just reading this somewhere. Uh, so, so versus before, Trump's up 6%. Okay, plus 2% for women, plus 3% for men, plus 10% for young people, plus 7% for blacks, plus 6% for Hispanics, uh, plus 6% for non-college. He's up in every single category.
yeah,
They will never recover from the damage they've done to themselves. And unless they suddenly revert back to the JFK Democratic Party, they're going the way of the Whigs. And one last comment, I'll be quiet. I promise, I can't help myself.
no, no
You,
worries.
yeah, with Trump, my wife and I were talking about this the other day. You didn't see any McCain's, Bush's, Romney's, any of those people involved in this, right?
No,
Because and the reason is because that's not the new Republican Party. We have kicked that to the curb finally. The rhinos are as dead as the progressives are on the Democrat side. So there's been some fundamental things that have happened here, and it's a great thing. And I'll
oh no, you're fine. And actually, I got to. Lori says it's called weaving. Don, you aren't wandering. You're weaving. You're doing the weave.
I couldn't help myself, Lori.
And you're good, and you're good at it. You're absolutely right. The mainstream media, as we know it today, is absolutely dying on the vine, and they're trying to. And that's a great thing, that citizen journalism. I saw a post from Elon Musk this morning, and he said, X is where the truth is. Go ahead, feel free to call out the truth if you see something that's wrong. And there's gonna be people that make mistakes, but here you can speak truth. But I want to go back to the voting a minute, because 2020, I saw a graph today that had a line of how many votes there were 20 um, 20, 16, 2012, 2016, 2020, and now 2024.
Hmm.
In 2020, the Democrats had like 15 million more votes than they do today. Where did they go?
Oh, I had a note here. I was looking at my little yellow pad. Exactly. How in the world did Biden have 80 million votes and she has what, 60 million? Where did they go?
That's exactly right. So she's got 67 and 0.8 million votes as of right now. Okay.
Hmm.
67.8 million votes. Where did they go? And
And,
it didn't go to Trump, you see. It's like,
uh,
yes, Trump gained some.
mhm.
That's
Hey,
the fraud. That was the counting the ballots 3 or 4 times and the shipments of the ballots in, the ballot stuffing. I'll tell you, I just thank God that Trump is in, and I thank God for the strong people that he has surrounded himself with. You've got Vivek Ramaswamy, you've got Elon Musk, RFK Jr. Um, you have so many. Lara Trump did a fabulous job, and the army of attorneys that
mhm.
are working for all of us and guarding this election. And shame me once, fool me once, shame on me, and fool me twice, shame, or you know what I mean, shame on you, shame on me. And I'm just so thankful that they did not succeed.
Yeah.
And something that I heard Matt Schlapp say last night on Newsmax, because he was asked, "Are you going to be in this administration?" And he said no. He says, "But I'll tell you, I will be working very, very hard to bolster our election laws,
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
and we need it.
Mhm.
We need it.
Wow.
And we need such we've got such great people that are working for the betterment of our country. And then, of course, we're only talking about Trump, but right
Hmm.
now, I'm looking at like would be the front cover of the Epic Times, and they
Hmm.
have the Senate. The Senate, I guess there's 4 races to be called,
Hmm.
and even if they all went Democrat, the Republicans still have the Senate. So this is showing 44 to 52. If there's something new, I don't have it. And when there's 4 to be called, so that would put it 48 to 52. That's a slim margin, but even if we're still would have the Senate, Mitch
Hmm.
McConnell is gone,
Hmm. That's awesome.
and I'm glad he is not going to be. He has already stated he's still in office, and he's still a senator. He's got, I think, 2 more years, but he has given up the to be the leader, Senate Majority Leader, and so there's going to be a battle for the new Senate Majority Leader, and that's I think Mitch McConnell. It's time for him to be gone. And then in the House, we have the House. There's still 39 races to call, but as of right now, we have 206 versus the Democrats 190, and you need
Hmm.
218 to have the majority.
Hmm.
So, this is not all over, but as
Yeah.
of right now, it is looking very, very good for America.
Hmm.
And it's I so last getting back to I to last night, I just went, wow,
Hmm.
are we
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
going to have this? Are we really having
Yeah.
Trump? And and yes, we have got Trump. We have him, and but not just him, because he is going to get less government.
Hmm.
He's going to deport the illegals. And with RFK Jr., we're going to get Make America Healthy Again.
Oh, can I jump in?
We're going to see unprecedented change, I believe, in our country.
Well, I just scribbled down my wish list, which I think can happen in the first week. So we immediately build the pipeline. We open the fracking. We open Anwar. So we get all. You realize how much energy permeates the cost of everything. Just doing that will cause the talk of doing that will cause prices to drop,
Yeah.
because energy affects the prices of everything. We eliminate fluoride in the water, ban pharma ads on TV, immediately release all of those January 6th victims of this communist government, immediately release all those who imprisoned peacefully protesting outside of abortion clinics, immediately end this useless war in the Ukraine, reinstate all the government and military people that lost their positions because they refused to be vaxxed, pay them for their lost compensation, and fire those who fired them. And of course, build the wall and immediately send home illegals automatically. And then start with the heads of the alphabet agencies. They got to go. FBI, CIA, DEA, FEMA, Homeland Security, State Department, SEC, DEA, CDC, every last bit of it. And I think we have a guy who's got the stones to do it.
We do, but I'll tell you, we need to have the legislature do a lot of this. We have to have the House and the Senate in order to get, and so it's not just executive order stuff, because executive orders can be undone.
Correct.
And so it has to be some laws. Now, there's lots of things he can do with executive order, but I'll tell you, we already know. Like I was hearing something today that having the House and the Senate, we would have his appointments would be confirmed. Bam.
Yes.
Bam, here we go. Yep, you're in. You're ahead of this department. It's not just in name only. It's not just a temporary thing. And we start cleaning house. And it was RFK Jr. said, you know what? The FDA, that's gone. That's gone, or parts of it. He said, I think he said parts of it, not necessarily the whole thing.
And you realize too that we're talking about the significance of this can't be overstated. So you got three branches: the Supreme Court, the executive, and the legislative. We probably got at least one or two people who could potentially be coming up for retirement in the Supreme Court, and we want to have the right president in office to appoint the next one. So that's yet another beautiful thing about this happening the way it's happened. I mean, Clarence Thomas has been there since the '80s, for example. I don't know if he's got 4 or 8 more years in him, and I can't think of some of the other ones, but we got a couple, I think, who are going to be in their 80s here, and they're not going to do like Pelosi and the gang hanging around till they're 100.
Well, absolutely. It's so we get to celebrate today. I have been extremely happy, and wearing my hat as I've been going around. And I have to tell a quick story. I had an eye exam today. I'm not going to say where, because I don't want some leftists going attacking the business. But I had an eye exam today, and I walk in with my hat, and they go, "Cool hat, Sonny. I want one."
Well,
and I told them, I said, I don't know if I should get an exam today because I'm quite fatigued. My eyes have been staring at my cell phone for hours, and I'm running on a little sleep and whatnot.
I live too close to Portland. I'm not courageous enough to wear that hat. I like my head. I like my head on my shoulders. But maybe I should, though. Maybe I should.
I'll tell you, it is about showing that you're not afraid. It is about showing you're not afraid. And I've been wearing a Trump shirt for several days, and occasionally put my hat on, but today, in fact, I was admonished yesterday. Somebody goes, "Sonny, you still got that 2016 sticker on your car." I said, yeah, but I took a black marks a lot and I made a V and an A. And then I put 24 instead of 2016 on there. I said, but you know what it does? I said, I hate to get rid of it because it shows I'm an older supporter. I'm
Yes.
not a new supporter. I'm an
Right.
older supporter of
Yeah.
Trump. And anyway, yeah, I gotta put another bumper sticker. And I've seen some fresh Trump bumper stickers in this past few weeks over here on our end of the state.
Yeah.
And I think we have to. There are people that are not Trump supporters, and sadly, there are people that think he's going to be a dictator. And I say that because I talked to one.
Hmm.
And this woman who I know, and she said, I'm going to vote the whole red ticket except that guy, the top, because I don't want a dictator. And I went, and I go, oh, yeah. In my mind, I said, well, you're listening to the other news, MSDNC, or CNN. And it's sad. So we have to have compassion for those people.
That is true.
We do.
And the thing is, it's the capacity to reason. I've always been shocked ever since I was a little kid, shocked at how people are unwilling to ask for evidence, to ask for why. Just because you say something is so doesn't make it so. And that goes for, me and Sonny too. If we're saying things without any evidence to support it, you should ask for the evidence, or at least you should walk away with a jaundiced eye. And it's just incredible to me how so many people can watch news and be told stuff. Like anytime you hear name calling, you should wonder. So you're calling somebody a name. Well, if the person's a misogynist, provide the evidence, please.
Yeah.
If they're a racist, provide the evidence, please. And then, by the way, tell me how it's relevant. Um, yeah, and we don't get that.
No, we don't. And the beauty about Trump is he already has a 4-year record. He wasn't a dictator then.
Hmm.
He's not going to be one now. He said he will be for one day.
Hmm.
I'll take that. I know I'll take it in a minute,
And
right?
this is the thing:
But
it's not even rational. Dictators don't get indicted, don't get impeached,
right,
don't get
right,
sued if
right.
they want to, certainly don't get shot, and their own secret services don't fail to protect them, and refuse to protect them. This doesn't happen to dictators. It's not rational.
Yeah.
So people get gaslit and
We
emotion.
do. We've all been gaslit on
Yeah.
something in our life.
Mhm.
If you've always known the truth, then throw some rocks at me. But
Yeah.
I don't believe it. And I take it as it's God's time to wake people up. It's not for me.
Mhm.
It's God's time. And
And I
every,
tell you, as painful as it's been, it's. I remember sitting around the day when they stole the election before, and just thinking to myself, I can't believe it. But now I look back on it, it was in our best interest that happened. Um, because had he won, we had not been hitting the head hard enough with a 2x4, meaning the conservatives among us, say that 20-25% who does get it,
yeah,
we hadn't been beaten up enough to realize that we got to start fighting back. And then that next 20 or 30% who get it, but would just blindly go along with the waves, right? Because
yeah,
that's what they do. So we needed, I'll call it the Nineveh moment,
yes.
and we got it, and and so we've been given another chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have some, what I'm going to say is good news in Oregon. I'd like to go to Oregon a little
Mm.
bit. Um, on the ballot measures, there's still ballots. We've still got a week,
Mhm.
of ballots coming in the mail. How much more of that,
Mhm.
how much is going to come in? I don't know.
Mhm.
Right now, the statewide voter turnout is almost 61%. They are
Mhm.
estimating it's going to be 80%.
Mhm.
So now you're talking 19% more ballots coming in. So
Mhm.
there's some races that are tight, and we'll just have to see how that turns out. But
Mhm.
Measure 115, it passed. That was the impeachment. That one I don't believe will ever change. And that I think is a good deal to have that impeachment clause
Mhm.
statewide.
Mhm.
The Measure 116 so far has failed, and I hope it doesn't change. It's only like a 106,000 votes that it is failing, and that is this Independent Public Service Compensation
Mm.
Commission. It's just growing an unelected bureaucrat department of the government, and I'm glad it's failing. I hope it continues to fail because we don't need that. And the commission would be appointed by the Democrat governor, of course. And we don't need a commission that's going to say, well, the salaries of the Secretary of State ought to be XYZ. No, it's the people. It's the people get to say that. Measure 116 is failing much more, thank goodness, and that is the ranked choice voting. And
Ah,
I felt that if that passed, that would have been the end of Oregon. I
so that was
really,
that was failing.
it is. It's failing
That
by
was
almost well, just over 59% versus just over 40%.
that's cool.
So we've got 300,000, roughly 300 and change
Mhm.
thousand votes more that it is failing. That's a very good thing. And the 3% corporate tax, oh my gosh, that one resoundingly is absolutely dead. There's no way this could get revived. And
Mhm.
that is so, so good. But why didn't those same people vote for ranked choice voting the same way? I don't know. But I guess even the Democrats don't like this 3% tax, the carrot
Yeah.
and the stick. Oh, we'll give you a revenue, we're going to pay
Mhm.
you 1,600. They kept upping it, how much we're going to give you,
Mhm.
and it was pie in the sky.
Yeah. Uh,
So that one is right now at 78.55% failure. So it's 1.3 million votes of a no
mhm.
to just over 300,000 for yes. That one will never revive, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Now, Measure 119, the last one, unfortunately, people decided that the pot shops must make a deal with the labor union.
Mhm.
So they're going to be, you can just pay more for your pot. You know, that's it. You just pay more. I'm not anti union, but that's just the reality. Yeah, I voted to pay more for my pot. Okay.
Yeah, it is what it is,
Yeah.
Oregon would be Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So that's, in my viewpoint, some good news.
mhm.
Um,
Yes, yeah.
some bad news is we didn't win. The Republicans didn't win any of the statewide races,
Were they even
and
close? Like Deramer?
Lori Chavez DeRemer has not won her seat now as a Congress seat, okay, congressional seat. And but
Is,
I was
is,
really hoping and praying for Will Lathrop to win as Attorney General,
mhm.
and it didn't happen.
Did they close the
So
gaps? Did they get the gaps relatively close?
it did not.
Mhm.
It did not. Let me look here. Right
Mhm.
now, let's see.
They poured the outsiders, and you know who they are, poured
Yeah,
millions into those. I
yeah,
mean, millions
yeah,
into those races.
yeah, absolutely. And let me see yeah. Here's I'm pulling that map up. So Dennis Linthicum didn't win Secretary of State, and it is 40. He got almost 43% of the vote, and Tobias Reed has 53.8% of the vote. We'll see. There's still, another 18%. I don't know how that would work out. I don't think so. And state treasurer Brian Boquist, he actually did a little bit better than Dennis Linthicum. So but he still has not won. Maybe he still could. That one is pretty close. It's 44% to 49%.
Hmm.
So, that's just a 5-point spread.
Hmm. Okay.
And Will Lathrop and for Attorney General is 46% to 53%.
Hmm.
So I think that's a little bit too much, but maybe it can get pulled out because that is statewide and they still have a bunch of ballots to come in.
And here's the thing with these kinds of things, as painful as they are, once you kick the dog and cat, you wake up the next morning and you recognize that um, it's going to be a series of battles, much like Roe v. Wade was. It took what 50 years for that to happen. There was a whole lot of losses on the way to that final win, and this will be the same thing for a state like Oregon, Washington, and California. Look at from the presidential perspective. I think California narrowed from like 25% to 15. That certainly
Mhm.
happened in New York State. That gap closed by like 10 or 15 percentage points. I think Oregon was down to what, like 8, I heard the last time around, um, which is a lot better than California and Washington. And so uh, it's going to be an incremental thing. It's not going to be an overnight victory. So these losses now might
Yeah.
wind up being wins in 4, 8, 12 years, much like the drubbing that Barry Goldwater took in what, 60?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that wound up producing Ronald Reagan in what, in 80, 20 years later, right? And
Yeah.
it's those things are it's all is not for naught.
No, you're absolutely right. And sometimes, like Dennis Richardson, he ran for governor and he didn't win, but then he ran for Secretary of State and people knew his name. They liked what they saw and he won. And he was a Republican that won a statewide race. So,
Mhm.
we have some very, very good candidates. And I do want to say that Pat says here, Alex Garlatos won, and he won his election, and that's very, very good.
Mhm.
Sadly, as far as I know right now, Lori Chavez DeRemer
Mhm.
hasn't. I don't know if it's recoverable, but
Mhm.
that's a congressional seat that Oregon gave up if she ends up doesn't win. Cliff Bentz won. There was no touching him. He was like way, 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 way out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So yeah, so these things of time. I mean, look at it. I mean, the Democrats were it. They didn't destroy Oregon overnight. They didn't become a one
No.
party state overnight. That took like 40 years to happen. Just like California, I remember moving to California in '85, and there was like
Yeah.
3 or 4 Republican governors in a row, and it was still freaking paradise. And we all know what happened after that. Um, Kind of similar to Oregon and Washington.
Yes.
So if it went one way, it can go the other.
Yeah, it can. And so Noah Robinson won. So he's taking place of his father.
Hmm.
And David Brock Smith is in. Dick Anderson is in. These are Republicans.
Hmm.
Fred Gerard um, is in. Bruce Starr is. And let's see. Let me keep going. Diane Linthicum won, so she's replacing Dennis Linthicum. He was one of our that walked out. Todd Nash won. Mike McLean won for
Hmm.
the Senate 30th district. So that's our Senate, and so we've got some more. We'll talk more about this on Friday on the election. And sadly, Monique Despain has at the moment lost, but I'll tell you, there is, with these more ballots coming in, there might be something good from that.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Mhm.
but I'll tell you what else didn't happen. The Washington and Oregon both put the National Guard on notice, and they built a fence around DC. They boarded up all the windows in downtown Portland and DC, and the only skirmish that I saw or heard about that happened was in Seattle, and it was shut down right away. They said, "Oh no, you're not doing this." And today in DC, they're taking down all that fencing because you know why? Our side. does not do that.
Yes, it is amazing, isn't it? The difference. We know what side does that stuff. They
You
accuse
do?
our side of doing it when it's what they do. Um, and pretty much whatever they're accusing you of, they're already doing it, and we've seen that over the last 8 years, for sure. Uh,
Yes.
Now, having said that, we all know they're not just going to lay down. You know,
No,
who
no.
knows what they have up their sleeve or what they're going to pull after the inauguration or between now and then. I mean, you can't trust it. But I will say I think that the future is bright. It's not going to be all downhill, but it's definitely brighter than it was, and I think the markets are going to respond to it. The stock market blew up today,
Oh,
as
it did blow up today.
because I mean it's kind of a predictor of what's coming. In
Yes.
any of these policies, I mean, think about what it was like before in 2016 when we had manufacturing jobs coming back that were supposedly lost forever. Yeah, it was amazing. Prices were low. Unemployment was the lowest it's ever been in history, no matter which minority group you sliced it by, whether it was women, blacks, across the board, Hispanics, everybody had low unemployment, and and they destroyed it, and they destroyed it quickly. Um, is the amazing part. So I expect a major boom to happen. I really do.
I do too. I do too. In fact, I'm looking at the Epic Times, like their front page of all the articles and whatnot. And right now, it's Trump is 295 and Harris is 226 in the electoral college map. And I wait to see what it looks like county by county
Hmm.
across this nation, county by county. But an article here that the headline says how a second Trump administration might affect foreign policy. Offshore windmills, Paris Climate Accord, likely Trump's day one chopping block list. There's going to be some things happening. The Another good piece of news was that North Carolina flipped three House seats.
Wow.
North Carolina,
Hmm.
and there's been a lot of wins around for sure, and it's going to be. For me, I feel like it's a big weight lifted. And I heard somebody else say that today. I feel like, wow, we can't let our guard down. We have work to do. We have
Yeah.
work to do in the state of Oregon, have work to do in Washington state.
Oh,
But
here's another stat for you. I heard Cook County, not Cook County, Wayne County, which houses Detroit, what was up 40% for Trump. Trump. We're talking Detroit, Michigan. Can you imagine? I mean, that's game changing when you start having results. I mean, that's why I can't wait to see what these statistics look like when they start digging in. When you start digging into the Clark counties, that's where Vegas is.
yeah,
Cook County for Chicago, right? You
yes.
start digging into these places and seeing what has happened. It could be a permanent change in terms of how people vote, and that is like awesome.
Yes, some one other point I wanted to make is, people, I was having a conversation about this today, that people have w- they don't even know the freedoms they've lost. They're used to living under the government and asking permission to do this and asking permission to do that and not realizing the freedom. And um, from my own personal experiences, I've had a lot of freedoms in my life. And so coming back to live in the United States again, it's like, wow, you have to go ask for this and that, and
Mhm.
that's why when the mask mandate, happened and all of that, I went, oh no, you have no right. You have no right.
Yeah, and what was shocking, particularly because we're out here in these blue states. Now you're fortunate; you're in the eastern, so east, not Oregon, not all of Oregon is blue, just the western part, right? And over on this side of the state, people's willingness to just bend over and do what the government told them, it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
that many people. Now you go to other parts of the country, they weren't doing that. And I got some friends who went to Texas, they flew out of Texas from here during that time. They were shocked, like nobody was doing it. They were just ignoring it. And
Yeah.
here, I would go into the store, and it'd be like me and one other person that would not be wearing a mask, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'd be very uptight about it. It was not comfortable. I mean, I got thrown out of a couple of places. Um, but if we're not willing, yeah, if we're not willing to get thrown out of a place
Yeah.
or be uncomfortable, when our ancestors were really uncomfortable storming things like Fort Sumter or Iwo Jima,
Or the Boston Tea Party over taxes.
right, exactly. They were putting their lives really at risk. We're
Right.
just risking embarrassment for now. Um,
Right.
we don't deserve our freedom if we're going to allow that to happen. And that, again, might be one of the best things that happened about this. We saw how far they were willing to go. They were willing to tell you to stay at home, to drive by in cars and scream at you for walking outside, talking to another person, to tell you you had to put something on your face. There was no evidence that it did a thing, to force you to lose your job because we can get a shot that was unproven. Um, the things that were done to us, we cannot allow that to be forgotten.
No.
We can't. We just
No.
can't.
No. Not at all. Not at all. And so, yeah, it's a sigh of relief, and I think I'm not tired of winning, and I can't wait to see the winning that we're going to have under Trump.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and we need more of it, because it's been amazing watching what the destruction of our nation these
Hmm.
past 4 years, 3.5 years. It
And you
has,
can
but
you can you can
we're not
feel.
out of the woods. Trump has to stay alive,
Mhm. There is
and
that.
he has picked, and I believe he has picked an awesome VP. You know what his? Did you see Trump's acceptance speech last night?
I, you know, I haven't had a chance to see it. I was like inundated with so much stuff. I never got a
Okay.
chance to see it. Isn't that crazy?
So,
Yeah,
well, it is. You got to take a little time because it wasn't
yeah.
real long.
Hmm.
But he says, now here's our vice president elect, JD
Hmm.
Vance. I
Hmm.
think I picked a good guy. You know, he said I would tell him, I want you to go into enemy territory. And
Hmm.
he didn't, and he said, where? He said, CNN. Okay. And he went. He goes, he didn't ask me why. He just
Yeah.
said, okay. And he went and he did good. He goes,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, this guy's fearless. We got
Yeah.
a good one.
Hmm.
That part was like really cool,
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
Trump had said, I have to pick a VP who's ready to lead
Hmm.
if it's needed.
And the same thing, he is Americana. He hasn't gone off and bought into the ivory tower approach to things. I mean, you can feel it in him. You can see it in him. The authenticity is there in him. He could do a 3 hour long form podcast. Candidates who can't do that will never get elected again. And I think this is one of the best things about what's happened. If you can't do that, you can't get elected. We'll no longer be subjected to three CNN people fact checking and keeping you from answering and asking skewed biased questions and attacking. That's over.
Hmm. Hmm.
I doubt we'll ever see another Republican sit through that again. And I think that's just awesome. Nope, no more.
Well, the
Done.
the country club Republicans are gone.
And they're
They're
done.
still around. You're either gonna stay with it and embrace the new party, or you're not. And you know, I'm happy to see the changes, and I'll tell you what, Laura Trump, and what they've done with the RNC
Mhm.
has been fabulous, and what they did for our nation is immeasurable.
Oh,
But I'm going to remind people, the top two people of the three voting members of the Oregon Republican Party voted for Ronna McDaniel. Our state Republican Party leadership must change.
Yeah. Oh,
Must change.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, here's, I just think this is so amazing. Going back to, I think the fundamental thing that the Republican Party has done that's been, I shouldn't say the party, it's actually the Trumpites, because that's not the old school Republican Party. So the non rhino part of the party, maybe that's the best way I
Yeah.
can phrase it, is we've changed the identity of the party. So what the Democrat Party has done is it's identity politics. So you are a member of. We're going to treat you as a member of these competing groups for a limited number of resources. So you're black, you're Hispanic, you're a woman, you're a white male, you're a white female, you're young, you're old, you're gay, you're trans, or of course the LGBT. That's the ultimate
Mhm, mhm.
identifying characteristics, and even the LBTGQ are competing against each other, and they have you constantly warring around limited resources, and you identify as that. The beautiful thing about what the new, I'll call it the new Republican Party, has done is we identify by values, we identify by character, we identify by being Americans first. God and country and family. That's what we identify by. And the vast majority of Americans want to be a part of that. And not for a limited resources, but for vastly expanding resources created by a free market economy supported by a Judeo Christian ethic
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
housed within a constitutional republic. That's the best formula ever created for wealth in human history. Why would we change that for something we already know doesn't work? It's been demonstrated by over 200 million people killed in the last century. And that's what these fools want us to try once again. And they gave us a taste of it in the last 4 years. Americans didn't like the taste. They said, no thanks. And that's an awesome thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'll tell you, the I saw a headline. I don't have it here. I'm sorry, but I did see a headline that that Jack Smith is going
Mhm.
to be dropping all the charges.
Stop.
And the DO and Christopher Wray says, well, the DOJ just never prosecutes the president.
Right.
Historically, it's just we don't prosecute a president. So
Just,
and
just
and
this one.
so let me tell you, the rats are fleeing the cage as fast as they can. And it
You
starts
know,
today, I guarantee you.
it's absolutely going to be fascinating. I mean, because again, my wife and I were talking about this earlier. If you think about the end of World War II, when the Nuremberg trials happened, and
Yes.
and this is just the way things fly. A whole lot of Nazis that killed a whole lot of people never got tried. They just
Yes.
escaped. And there were some, and this is it's going to sound sick, and you want to throw up when I say it, but deals were cut with some of them because they had something that was needed, and they kept them alive. And only the ones that got executed were the ones that were the most visible and who had nothing to trade. I,
Yeah.
I, I wish it
Yeah.
weren't so.
And I think that's going to come out with like the Epstein and the P Diddy, and this is why I've seen on social media. Well, even Elon Musk has said, "Well, let's see. These all these stars. I love that the stars lost the power.
Well,
All these
yeah.
stars endorsing Harris,
And think
and
about the stars. The stars are expendable. I
they
expect a
are.
whole lot.
Who
I
the
expect a whole
hell
lot of them.
cares what
Yeah,
they do?
yeah. They aren't the true power brokers. They're going to find
No.
out shortly just how stupid a thing is they've done for themselves. For a little fame. The Soroses are the ones of the world are the ones you want, and
Yeah.
they'll probably escape. But we'll see.
Yeah, they may. They may. I think we need another Nuremberg trial.
Or your
I do.
Fauci's, or your Fauci's, who
Yes.
who should certainly go to trial.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's a world thing, and the economic loss, the loss of life, but the economic loss of what happened. That's another show.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you,
holy cow. It's been an hour and 20 minutes.
well, we got started late, so not an hour. We've been an hour and 10 though, my friend. And
Yeah,
I'm so glad that you were able to. I don't know, the gods worked it out.
they did. They love us. You know what he called it? The forces of evil made us fight through it, though, as they always do. Well, Sonny, I always enjoy my time with you, and audience, you guys are like fabulous, and it's folks like you with the spirits you had that helped us get over this hump. But remember, it's the end of the beginning. That's all this is. This is Doolittle's Raiders. They finally struck back, right? They have woken the sleeping giant and filled him with great determination. And that's where we are. We have to make good just like our grandparents did. That's what we got.
Amen. And that's a great note to end on. Everybody like and share. Don, it's fabulous seeing you. And everybody, we'll be back on Friday. I might be with Kevin. I'm not sure yet.